Ellis Island was its own self-contained city. You know, you had 750 bed hospital that we have over here. People were born here. People died here.
From 1892 until 1954, more than half a century, Ellis Island was the gateway to the United States for more than 12 million people from all over the world. Today, nearly 40% of all Americans can trace their roots back here to Ellis Island, including war hero Scott O'Grady. In June of 1995, O'Grady's F-16 was shot down over Bosnia. He ejected and landed safely in the mountainous terrain, but endured 6 days of hunger and hypothermia before being rescued by the Marines. He says that ordeal made him even more grateful to be an American and made him an ideal spokesperson for the We Are Ellis Island campaign, sponsored by Arrow Apparel and the National Park Service. O'Grady's Irish ancestors on his father's side actually came over before Ellis Island was open.
But it was my mother's heritage through her father, where both of her parents immigrated from Italy, and it was my great-grandmother, Amelia Scarpati, who came from Sorrento, Napoli, at the age of 17 in 1898 and went through the facility here at Ellis Island.
And just like O'Grady's great-grandmother, the majority of immigrants who came ashore here were Italian. Between 1880 and 1920, more than 4 million Italians were recorded entering the United States, most of them escaping severe poverty and hoping for a better life in the land of liberty.
Many of the Irish and Scots came earlier in the 19th century as a result of the potato famine. People also came in response to neighbors and family members who had come before them. So often you'll see on a ship many names all coming from the same village, all heading toward the same American town.
Many such stories are displayed on the We Are Ellis Island website. Celebrities and everyday folks like New York carpenter Stephen Anello, who had 2 great-grandfathers and a grandfather come through Ellis Island.
My father's grandfather made the trip 9 times.
Really?
Yeah, for bringing family over and building up enough money. He was working on the Panama Canal.
Once immigrants landed, they went through an extensive screening process. Their legal papers were checked, their health status was checked, and their last stop before they left the island was the recently restored ferry building.
This was probably the happiest building on the island, because the people who came through this building or through the building that preceded it here in the same place had successfully finished the screening process, and they were, as the government said, free to land.
Of the 12 million immigrants that came ashore here, 250,000, about 2%, were turned away.
In some instances for legal reasons. Their papers were not in order. They might have had some kind of a record.
Ellis Island officially closed its doors in 1954 and actually sat for sale for about 10 years with no takers.
The number of immigrants coming into the country had certainly slowed dramatically, and that really began back in the 1920s. People were screened in their countries of origin, and now they weren't coming by ship so often, they were coming by air.
Today, Ellis Island is stirring with new life. The buildings, some of which were nearly in rubble, are being refurbished and restored, including the 3 main hospital buildings, which at that time were the most modern of their kind.
Well, one of the things that they were really learning at this point in time was that fresh air and sunlight were really very healthful. So there's lots of attempts to provide fresh lighting through skylights. Is the laundry and hospital outbuilding.
And what is this contraption right here?
This is a laundry press, a linen press. One of the things that Ellis Island's hospitals were learning was really how to manage contagion and the spread of disease. And so it was important that all bedding be washed in very hot water.
Today, Ellis Island is home to a world-class museum that sees about 2 million visitors each year. But what O'Grady and others hope is that Ellis Island will be here for centuries to come, to remind the world of our humble melting pot beginnings, and that being an American means being free. Wendy Griffith, CBN News, Ellis Island.